welcome back to Reaper Pro Tips Friday edition with me, your host, and disembodied hands Quindy. Kiki the dog, who's got a bully stick, and she's not going to jump up on me today because of that. And disembodied hands, Justin and John. Yeah, those people. Kiki is now getting billed ahead of Justin and John, apparently. But at least I don't get my face knobbed today. That's good. Yeah. Kiki has priority billing. Quindy. Hello. We have a kitty cat. Kitty. Yep, we've got kitty cat with presents. And we're very blurry today. We're very blurry. Blurry kitty cat with presents. There we go. Much better. Okay, so we've got one present on this side and two presents on the other side. So we've technically got 3 presents in total, most of them in the back of the model. There's Kitty with his or her glowing blue eyes. Yes, indeedy. Justin and John. And Kiki. But yeah, we are all here today on this wonderful Friday where I finished early with my Patreon stuff, and so I get to have a nice weekend off. Yay! This is happy. All right, so I think I want to work a little bit more on the kitty and then transition down to some presents. But I want to highlight some of the kitty's fur with a little bit more off-white, and I want to bring up the wing struts a little bit more. Otherwise, the kitty's looking okay. So let us grab our appropriate colors. And hi there, Kiki. Let's say hello to the Kiki dog who's wandering about. I gave her her bully stick, but she has not yet decided where it is nice enough to settle. So we have our shield brown, our nod bone, and our brown liner were the things that we were using to paint this model. Grab my shield brown from where it is hovering over here. Yes, and hello everybody, and happy Friday, and happy imminent New Year's. Imminent New Year's, sorry. Well, and an imminent New Year, hopefully. Is anybody doing any resolutions for the coming year? Have you been thinking about them? Hold on, gotta get my palette set up here. 4 drops of brown liner, 4 drops of shield brown, 4 drops of nod bone, and then I'm going to be adding some white to some nod bone to get, oh, we're blurry. Well, we're blurry because we're in focus up here. Play more D&D, paint more minis. I'm pretty sure almost everybody has a paint more minis resolution. Except for those people who are hugely productive in 2022, and maybe they're like, take a break from painting so many minis. Yeah, David tried to tell me that goals were resolutions, Aerowiz, and I pointed out to him that, my goals aren't something I'm going to forget by February, so that by definition they weren't resolutions. Which made him laugh. But yeah, I think it's different. He did not think it was different, but Oh, nice, foreshadow, nice. I have a secret box I have not yet showed David. I bought it for myself when I ordered his Christmas present. By the way, so I told you guys about the joke gift of the fancy side cutters that I bought him his own pair of Games Workshop side cutters, even though they're massively expensive, because otherwise he steals mine all the time and I never have them when I need them. That turned out to be his favorite Christmas present. So, win. Okay, Fuzzy Kitty. Cool. Yeah, NMM. Well, I just put up that, you just joined the Patreon, and I just put up that very basics of NMM with the sword blade. So start with that and kind of wrap your head. The nice thing about that is it talks about just the main components of NMM, and then the only thing you need to vary is essentially the way you tackle each curved surfaces and things like that. So but first, before you even get into how to paint a breastplate or how to do a blah, just get into your head the highlight, the shadow, and the reflective light. If you can get that in your head and start thinking about how light hits the model and how it bounces back up from the environment, how it reflects, then you're already ahead of the game. Because then you just have to kind of learn shapes. That's good, Pendrake. Well, you should paint a mini then, Pendrake. Yeah, that's a big one, Shadow Raven. Enjoy the time you have to do your own thing when you still have the ability to do so. Yep, for sure. That's a good one. I am trying to get some of this out of the way. I've got some things here. Just getting in my way off on my right here that I'm bound to knock off of my desk. All right, and let's do 2-to-1 on the brown liner, shield brown. We're going to do 2-to-1 on all of these colors. Actually, I'm going to put an extra drop into the white. I have a mix of 1 drop of Nod Bone with 3 drops of pure white. That is going to be my top off-white on Kidda's fur. There we go. Let's get more in focus, Kidda. And I'm going to just mix those up real quick and we'll get to it. If I left Kitty's fur at a 2-to-1, or if I left this top color, this white, off-white, at a 2-to-1, I would definitely see brush strokes. And although I do want to see brush strokes a little bit, I don't want them to be really sharp when I'm doing fur. So I thin it just with 1 extra drop of water. So it's a 4-to-3. And I'm just mixing up these other colors just in case I need to touch something up. My palette's going to be full of colors today if we get to those presents. All right, I think we've got it. Kitty is so little that there isn't a whole lot to do with texture, but alrighty. And I don't know if I'm really going to be able to do much for texture anyway because Kid is so little, but let's start just by bringing in, you see the highlight on the knee here. I changed position of my camera, so let me know if I get off camera. I'm trying to keep it a little closer to me so I can sit up a little bit, but I may keep creeping up just because I'm used to painting out here. So let me know if I am getting off camera, and I will make an effort to keep in focus. So just that nice highlight there. I'm going to back out just a tad. There we go. Yeah, kitty. Gonna grab some of my Nod Bone, and I lost a little bit of the shoulder here. Yeah, most of my New Year's, I don't think I have a New Year's resolution except to like just kind of stay on track with my writing goals. I kind of keep an eye on different aspects of my life, different areas of my life throughout the year. So like that, and I want to spend more time this coming year visiting family and friends because I have a pretty flexible schedule. And so I would like to take a couple more days off and just get to see my mom more often. And my friend Bridget. It was really nice to see Bridget when I went to get Kiki and to do the puppy evaluation, but you know, she's got a house full of guests and she's got a lot of stuff she has to do as the breeder. So she was very distracted, and we didn't get a lot of time to just chill and talk about like life goals and stuff and the way things are with us these days. So I told David I wanted to drive back out to South Dakota, and he thought I was nuts. But a grown-up Kiki, and me driving, you know, not after a full weekend of me actually, you know, working essentially, because doing a puppy evaluation is working, like, will be a lot different of an experience. So by that point, Kiki will be pretty grown up. She'll be a lot better, and I won't stress about her like I did when she was a baby puppy. Yeah, it's 3 days. It's 3 days. I would turn it into a road trip. I would probably just, you know, take off like a 10-day period and do the drive and actually have some time to like enjoy Yellowstone this time. And the thing is that if I hadn't been sleep deprived because of having a baby puppy with me and worried about the baby puppy in the car and getting her safe home and tired from doing all of the puppy eval stuff, I would have really enjoyed, like there were points during that long drive that I really just enjoyed the drive because you go through some beautiful country. So I think it would be a much different experience. So I'm just doing some highlights here to bring the fur up in color. I'm going to leave it a little darker under the wing. Oh, nice. Mini supply, yay. Great, Asia Marble. Sounds fun. So I'm going to get the kitty's little fringe of fur. I'm going to highlight that with this off-white. It's kind of a pale cream color. Speaking of cream, I'm thinking about making... I dug out my... I have the Great British Bake Off baking show baking book, and I realized there's a scones recipe in it. So I think I'm going to actually try to make scones this weekend since I have some time. There, we got the pale ears. Kitty still looks grumpy. Grumpy kitty. What is it, Julie? You keep sculpting grumpy cats. I mean, this kitty's right to be grumpy. He thinks he's about to get yoinked out of this Christmas tree, and he's absolutely correct. A very grumpy cat. A little bit of fur highlighting here, a bit of fur highlighting here, just on the back. Yeah, you go through the Dakotas instead. You go from Dakotas to Montana, to Idaho, to California, or Nevada and then California. So the most boring part is probably Nevada. The first time when I went out, I flew out, and then I drove back right with Keekster, baby Keekster. But honestly, it was really tiring to fly out because it turned out that there aren't any one-way flights, like, or one, you know, so you end up doing the double thing, which takes you all freaking day. And I just, you know, I part of the point of going out to see Bridget too would be to bring Kiki out to visit her, and so that you sculpt what you know. Funny. Yeah, well, only Kiki would be coming with me, Shadow Raven. David thinks I'm pretty crazy to want to do a three-day out, 3-day back drive. Plus, you know, the point is to kind of have girl time with Bridget, so I'm okay with David not going. I actually, guys, I need a lot of thinking time, like alone time, to really, like, be a happy Anne. Like, I really love time to just sit and think. And so it drives David nuts because when we get in the car, he wants to just put on a podcast right away. And if it's a longer trip, I will ask for silence for the first part of it because that's just the way I roll. I like to have time to kind of talk and just kind of think. And when I'm on my own on the road trip, I don't turn on any media for the first 2 hours. Instead, I like sit, I think about my book and, you know, about stuff that I want to think about. I'm very much a thinker. It's just one of my strengths. It helps me to, like, have alone time with myself. Actually, Nevada is pretty short when you take the route through Montana. I mean, there's desert, but I mean, it just looks like Texas, like northwest Texas. I drove through that going to Santa Fe all the time. It makes up for it by the fact that you get to do the Yellowstone thing. You know, you get to go through the beautiful area around Yellowstone. Considering, I think there's more lovely scenery because after you exit Reno, you head into California and right away you're in the Lake Tahoe area, and so that's gorgeous. So you get a whole bunch of beautiful, absolutely beautiful terrain coming out of there until you drop on the mountains. And then you have a little bit of just California, which is fine. I'm going to do a little bit of a highlight here on the shoulder. I want to bring these wings out a little bit better, so there we're doing it. I mean, I did the Wisconsin to Montana drive, and there, if you want tons of nothing, there's a large space of that before you hit the mountains. But like I said, I mean, a lot of times on a drive, especially now that I'm kind of learning to use dictation, so when I essentially spend a bunch of time just kind of brainstorming ideas for, like, you know, my book and all or stuff like that, whatever I'm working on. And I just dictate it while I'm driving. So for me, it's like, it's just really valuable time. I really enjoy it. I even enjoy, like, just like, you know, road food, and I do carry some good food with me, so I'm not totally road fooding, but I enjoy the traveling thing. As long as I've got a pillow for my back, I'm pretty good. Hey, Chaos. I am Anne. I work for Reaper, and this morning I am hanging out, trying to finish up most of this Christmas cat before Christmas season is completely over. I don't think I'm going to finish the entire thing, but I was planning to base it with a different model anyway. So when we come around back to the back around to next holiday season, we'll probably construct a little base for our wizard and our Christmas cat as he is casting Expel Cat. So he's very irate with the cat in his Christmas tree. Now, in order to tie these two minis together, I'll be taking some of the blues from the wizard and using them in the wrapping on the presents as well. So that is what we will be doing eventually, but we'll save that for next Christmas. Hopefully I can get a few more holiday-ish minis next holiday season. I might have to pull rank and ask around if I can get a hold, because I always wanted to paint the Christmas night and Christmas Eve models, but they weren't available this year, so. Maybe I'll put some light markings on top of the kitty's eyes. That's cute. Hey, Raceland, thank you for the resub. 5 months. Awesome. Yes, good day indeed. It is a good day. It's a day that after my stream I'm completely loose. I can do whatever I want. Finished a lot of my to-dos early this month instead of at the end of time. So yeah, it feels nice. I'm going to use a little bit of liner just to darken down the space between the wings up on top here toward the top. You seem to be late. Did a puppy eat you, Miss Dib? And how was your puppy class? Was it as horrendous as you thought, or was it actually a little better than you thought? Miss Imp and I, for those who don't know, both have terror puppies right now, so we are commiserating. Ah. Just darkening these down, and then I'll get those struts. I just gave Kiki the last bully stick, so I'm like living in terror right now. because we're out. We're out of bully sticks. I may have to make an emergency PetSmart run. Even though she likes these ones I'm getting on the internet, she likes them better than the PetSmart brand ones. But any bully stick in a storm, as they say. If I can keep her busy with a chew, she's 10 times easier to deal with when she's having dingo moments. Oh, okay, bye, Shadow Raven. Have a great weekend. Have a Happy New Year. Oh, wow. Hadn't had any training, didn't even know sit. Wow. Oh, wow, a Rottie with no training. Ugh. Oh, man. A Rottie, and that probably means that the Rottie is starting to be a real handful, and so then the owners were like, oh, maybe he needs an obedience class. Man, I wouldn't want a big dog like that with no training up to that point. I don't know how I would survive. Like Kiki, I started teaching Kiki sit and wait like the instant I got her at 8 weeks. I mean, I bet they were cute, but I just like, you don't want it to wait for the big dogs, especially. The bigger they get, the more they can manhandle you and jerk you around. I feel sad for those people. First-time dog owners. Oh, no. Oh, man. Wrong breed. Wrong breed, wrong technique. I feel bad for first-time dog owners, too. When you don't have a breeder who kind of helps you, you know, it's hard not to, if you like, don't have family members to help you or a breeder or somebody like that, it can be hard. It can be hard to navigate all the conflicting information. Like there's still a bunch of resources out there that tell you not to go to anything until the puppy has got all their shots, right? And you know, and so how are you supposed to decide whether you're gonna, you know, chance a puppy class? So I feel for them. Okay, good. Stay was not a thing. Yeah, I mean, Kiki's still working on stay, especially in a group full of dogs. That's why I'm kind of thinking, I felt so accomplished, guys. So this is my personal victory, Miss Dimp. This morning, normally when David walks Kiki, he makes his latte beforehand. And that, of course, means he's carrying his latte on the walk. And he doesn't really have any extra hands or ability to train her. So today, he actually took her on her walk before he had his latte. Like, imagine my gigantic eyes upon hearing this. And did it just so he could train her and had listened to what I told him about keeping her below threshold and training her before things became a problem. Like, oh my God, like David will be a brilliant dog owner eventually. I couldn't believe that he not only skipped his latte, but did it so that he could train her and then trained her correctly. Like, this is a man who never had a dog up to this point. Yeah, incredible, huh? Yeah, you can totally turn them around at 4 months old, for sure, Fuzzy Kitty. It's just not ideal, right? Like, half the point of getting a baby puppy is so you can start shaping really early. He is a good man. That's why I married him. Like, I had no idea he was going to be this good of a man, but if I had a David biscuit, I would give it to him. I mean, not only does he take her out in the mornings first, it gives her her first walk so I don't have to, but then he's doing this stuff. Like, he's a great guy. My husband is fantastic. I feel like I won the gold medal award husband. So I'm doing a little bit of extra highlighting just at the tops up here where the wings are kind of perpendicular to the light before they kind of curve away. Just to give that kind of suggestion. Wow. Yeah, Kiki's breed can get, the boys in Shiloh Shepherds can get that big. I had 105 pound Shiloh, our first boy, Leo. And I mean, we got him when he was 8 weeks, and he turned out to be very easy to handle, both because of the breed, because Shilohs tend to be easier to handle. But even though he got so big, just because he was our first dog, he got a lot of training. I like big dogs. If Kiki turned out to be a 100-pound female, I'd be pretty happy. But I definitely like big dogs when I have them from the get-go so that I can train them from the get-go. Because it makes them so much easier, in my experience, to handle as they get bigger. The Keekster's pretty good. 240. Yeah, that's immense. That's Mastiff kind of size. Never had a dog that big. Leo was the biggest. Some Shiloh Shepherds get up to 140, but they aren't as heavily built as that, so they just don't get more heavy than that. And we don't. And normally when they get to like 140 even, we're kind of like, is your dog fat? So Shilohs are considered a giant breed, but they're not considered a biggest dog in the world breed like that. That 240 pounds is pretty much on a par. I don't know that I would want that really, because I mean at that point that outweighs me and I can't use my own weight to help control the dog. Oh yeah, GSDs. Yeah. Yeah, I do love. He wants a dog he can carry. You should compromise and say your next puppy. See, you should have alternated, Miss Dim, because like Shepherds and Corgis can get along pretty well. I know a couple of families in the Shiloh world that have both Shilohs and Corgis. You got to alternate. You got to put your foot down and say, okay, you got your Corgi. Now I'm going to get my Shepherd. Then you're going to get your Corgi. Next dog is a Shepherd. And actually, I mean, I don't know about your husband, but David carried Kiri when we needed to carry her up the stairs to our apartment. It's carryable. You've just got to, it's not a dog you can tuck under your arm. Kiri was a good 80-pound female. But yes, I'm a total Shepherd enabler, so don't listen to me. Although I'm a little sad because, like, yeah. Because I'm feeling like with my back and everything, I don't know how many more big dogs I'm going to be able to have. I still want a smooth coat Shiloh again, so maybe one more. Kiki was hard on me though. Kiki's made me realize my mortality because she just has so much energy. So we'll see. We'll see about another dog. Two is our limit. David has said, and I agree. I've had 4, and 4 is too much for me. There we go. So now we got the nice highlights on the wings there. We'll get these membranes a little bit more highlighted. Yeah, I like bigger dogs. I grew up Fuzzy Kitty. I grew up with Shelties and German short-haired pointers. I still have a soft spot for both those breeds. Yeah, right. Getting older, exactly. Okay, yeah. Yeah, when you're getting older, I mean, I get it, right? I am also in that camp of getting older, and it's just harder. Physically, it's harder when you have to, when they're like lunge at something at the end of the leash, and you're not ready. So I get it. I'm sad, but I get it. I just have to figure out what breed I want to downsize to if I'm going to still have dogs after this. Or maybe I just pull maybe I just make myself available as a rescue home for Shilohs and Shepherds. Gosh knows there's a lot of older GSDs that need homes. Maybe it's just the puppy side that I have to dispense with. Oh, yeah. Yeah, Doberman's a nice breed, actually. I've known a couple of Doberman people in my life, and They are like hardcore in love with that breed, and their dogs are lovely. And a good looking, a well put together Doberman is just a beautiful sight in motion, and they're just such nice, they're athletic dogs. They've got such a beautiful build. I appreciate an athletic dog. Kiki is filling out into being like a little tank. Like she's, it's funny because I did not expect this from this litter. There we go. So now we got some highlights toward the edges. Yeah. Yes, training heel when the dog is, yep, is harder. Yeah. That's true, the bending, right? Oh well. All right, I'm going to lighten up the claws on the ends of the wings here, and then I'm going to move down to the presence, I think. Yeah, I don't know. I could go down to like a more medium-sized dog, maybe. But I love shepherds so much. And I always have. I guess I could go to like border collies, though that's a whole nother handful. Now that I've raised Kiki, though, I feel like I could. Oh, I went too high again. So I'm using my gnawed bone to just highlight the tips on these wings, the little claws. 2 butthead cats. Yeah. I pretty much, I had cats and dogs, and then I went to just dogs, and I'm going to stay with just dogs for a while. We really don't have a great place in this house for a litter box. And I think I just don't want a cat again until I can't have dogs anymore. I've always been more of a dog person. And I just don't want both. Like, I proved to myself that having too many animals is a huge strain on me. Too many things to care for and worry about. So I'm keeping it down now. There we go. So little pale claws. Leave a little dark at the root. Bork, bork, bork. Yep. Never, yeah, you know, I considered it with Kiki, Miss Tim. I did consider a train away for Kiki. But the reason I did is that Kiki has very much she doesn't want to approach people. Like, she's going through that phase where she's like really kind of like lunges back and forth at people, where if they turn their back, she'll jump up on them. But if they, reach for her, she pretends she's terrified. And I really feel like with that sort of thing, the board and train is good because they have to deal with strangers every minute of the day, and that stranger's going to have their leash, and that stranger's going to work with them. So I felt like it was actually a possibility for Kiki that it would help with that. I'm still thinking about it. Otherwise, she doesn't really have a lot that I would correct at this point. But I did think that, because like when she goes to the vet's office, that's good for her. It's good for her that the vet assistant takes her leash and they take her away from me for a little while, So if I find a good board and train, I may do it. I won't consider it a failure. Like I feel like I'm at some of the things with Kiki. I'm kind of like, it's stuff I haven't encountered before. It's stuff that I can't train alone. So we'll see. We'll see if it's just a phase, and if she grows out of it, or if Hey, Eons. I am trying to finish a Christmas kitty before New Year's. And I don't think I'm going to be able to do it, but I'm at least going to get progress. So the first thing I do, guys, is I'm going to use my brown liner as kind of a wash and just block in the shadows around these presents, and I'm going to line the ribbons and stuff. So I'm just kind of setting them off from the base. The base will eventually probably be a snowy base. So I don't really care about like getting the shadow on the base here. I'm going to be putting snow over it anyway. And we've got a little ribbon on top of this present. But yeah, we're talking about dogs because I got a new puppy this year, Eons. And me and Mist Imp in the chat both got new puppies and we've been commiserating. like a miniature Australian. I actually, that's the thing, is like of all of the breeds, I'm not a fan of how small they are, but I thought about Australian Shepherds for a while. But I do actually know a very reputable breeder in Mini Americans. Like, I met her when I was still showing, when I was still doing dog shows. She lived in Denton. And she's like had dogs at Westminster and everything. Since they went to AKC. But I knew her before the breed actually went to AKC. They're just a bit little. Like, I really want a dog at least Sheltie sized. Like, Sheltie is kind of my minimum. And I probably would be happier. What did I just drop? I don't know what I just dropped. Oh, probably the kitty's card. Probably Australian Shepherd is probably what I should look at. I don't know. The problem with miniature varieties of breeds is that they've been bred for size, and that means they haven't necessarily been bred with a focus on health or temperament or anything else. So you kind of have to watch it when you're looking at miniature breeds and make sure that the conscientiousness is there. If you're gonna get one, from a breeder. But yeah, I don't want anything that's too little. At that point, I should just get a cat, in my opinion. Yes, I know that's silly, and I know people love their Chihuahuas and their other toy breeds, but it's never been me. I mean, maybe I would find the breed that would change my mind, but yeah, I think my lowest, my smallest would be like a Sheltie or a Border Collie. Or I did meet a Border Collie Whippet mix that was honestly the sweetest dog ever, and I might look for that mix. Ridgeback, yeah, those are nice dogs. Yeah, Shiba Inus are all over out here. Like, we see a lot of Doges, and we see a lot of Golden Retrievers. And I see a lot of Doodles, actually, Golden Doodles mostly, in my classes that I've been taking Kiki to. Lately, the scariest thing has been I've been meeting people with Belgian Malinois German Shepherd mixes. And I'm like, why? If you're not a police officer or ex-military, why? Because you're essentially like, you don't want a pure Belgian because they're like crazy. But you're like, this should calm it down, and you're using German Shepherd, and it's like, you already got a handful of a dog, and now you made it more of a handful. Oh, my lordy. Like, smart as a whip, crazy high energy. That mix, like, one of the guys that I met with that mix had his arm in a sling because the dog had essentially, like, just thrown itself at him and actually hurt him. It's like, you better be training that. I just can't imagine. I mean, I know, because right now, some of you know, we did a Shiloh Shepherd outcross with a Belgian Tervuren. Tervurens are usually a lower energy and lower drive than the Malinois. And even these dogs are a complete handful. Oh, really? Interesting. Interesting. Aussies are more protective. That's good to know, Miss Stamp. Thanks. Nobody has crossed a Corgi and a Shiloh because they don't want the legs. They don't want the short legs. At least nobody that I know of, reputably, right? Pendrake, that's the thing. Backyard breeding, if somebody, you just never know what's out there for mixes. I have seen a Corgi GSD, and it was pretty cute. What happens with the chondroplastic breeds is that you get a leg size that's kind of in the middle. You don't get the really short legs of the Corgi or the long legs of the GSD. You get a middle size. That's the way the genes intermingle. It's pretty interesting genetics, actually. All right, let's see here. What colors are we doing? Now, we don't want to do green wrapping paper here at all because we've got the tree right here, and I want to use some of the Wizards colors. So, I don't know that I still have all of the colors I used for him, but I'm pretty sure the ash and blue was one of them. And I used a Syrian, I used a Kata. Let me grab some of my my blues here. That's carbon scoring blue. I don't want that one. That one's too dark. There we go. I used a bunch of gray blues and pale blues when I was doing, well, I wouldn't do purple probably, Missed Him, because I want these two models to go together. So this is my chance to take some of the blue that I used on the wizard and work it into part of the cat, which would be like the presence. So the main color for the wizard's robes was ashen blue, the outer robe. You can see it right there. So I think I'm going to do that, and I'm going to highlight it with Irisin, or Ice Devil, sorry. And that is where this light blue came from. So that should help. So I'm going to do a little bit of that. Because if I want to put these two together in a diorama, I want a little bit of relationship between them, just a little bit. The gold on the wizard's robes is good to resonate with the gold on the tree. So, but if I use some blue down here, I'll be happy. I'll use some red as well. And we'll see what we can do. Probably gold. Legato. Is that one of those Italian fighting breeds? Arrowiz? Hello, Kim. Local contemporary gallery, and I pretend to appreciate. You really are looking with abstract work, Kim. You've got three things in my mind you look at. One is composition of shapes, like just how pleasing is the composition of like the different elements of the painting. Two is the color, like how does it resonate with you? Do you really enjoy the interplay of colors if it's a work that uses different colors? And three is texture. So like if they're using textured paint or if they're doing different materials like mixed media. Like if you look at, I forget what his name is, but he's the guy that does the really colored mobiles that balance really funky. Caldwell? I don't remember. But like his work doesn't touch me emotionally, but I can really appreciate the engineering of it. Like I can appreciate his shapes and like the empty space that he's using and the fact that it all balances. So like for me, I'm not really a modern art person, like totally not. But I can still look at a piece and kind of evaluate it for like, do I like how the image, do I like the light and dark, do I like the colors? Like a lot of modern art, it's like, it's trying to evoke an emotional response in you, but it may be really subtle. Like, honestly, if you look at a modern art painting and you're like, ew, the artist probably meant for you to feel that way. They were trying to put colors that had like kind of a twist and didn't like each other that much. They were trying to push that. But it's a really, abstract is a really weird art field for those of us who are used to like more representational art, like our fantasy art and stuff like that. And it's like, it's weird. Like sometimes I'll see an abstract work that I really genuinely like. And usually in that case, it's the use of color and texture and light and dark that really draws me. But that's kind of what I look at when I look at that sort of abstract art. Is I'm looking at, do I enjoy the shapes? Do I enjoy the light dark composition? Do I enjoy the colors? And it's okay when you're looking at modern art. It is okay to just kind of say, yeah, it doesn't really do much for me. It's all right. Like sometimes the artist just will have shot, you are not their audience. And I often will just kind of be like, yeah, not really into it. But David and I do that with all sorts of art. Like we go to art galleries and art museums regularly. And so like David I'll like a painting and David will be like, it does nothing for me. And it'll be the opposite way around too, where he'll like a painting and I'm like, I would not have that on my wall. So never think you have to like pretend to appreciate something. If you don't react to it, then you don't react to it. And remember that the whole like purpose of art is just like the purpose of writing. It's there to connect, right? It's there to get an emotional reaction out of you, and that doesn't necessarily mean it's there to make you sad or happy, but it's like something that resonates with you. So if it doesn't resonate with you, that's fair. That's all good. It just means that artist and you maybe just weren't on the same wavelength. And it's okay to say that. It's okay to say that. But also look closer, like look at the texture, like if somebody is only doing like red squares on white background, but their paint texture is really kind of interesting, then that's something you can mention. Like that's a technical thing, right? Yeah, that's kind of what I do in modern art museums, Kirst, is I don't like everything. I don't even like half of what I see. But I can always find something where I think that the use of color is really cool, or the shapes are neat and how they mesh together. Stuff like that. Like I like cubism because I find that the dynamic use of shapes is really fun. Even if I don't really like the painting enough to have it on a wall, I'll still think it's neat. I'll still appreciate it for what it is. So just appreciate them for what they are, really. And yeah, if you can find one and, you know, kind of say, yeah, you know, I really like the use of color in this one. I love the yellows, you know, with the greens or whatever. Things like that. That's fair. You don't have to, like, art BS is art BS. And I used to joke because people were getting a Bachelor of Science in art, you know, like I was at one time. It was all art BS. I got very good at art BS, but it's like, I don't know, since then I've kind of given up on that, and it's just like, it either resonates with me or it doesn't. That's its job. It's art. And if it doesn't, it's not a failure on your part. It's not even a failure on the artist's part. It maybe just means that you two are very different people. So, yeah. But I far prefer, like, I like some medieval stuff, but it tends to be so iconographic that I don't, it depends on the work, but Renaissance, I love Baroque stuff because I love how dark and light it is. And Baroque was when people were really like, I feel like Baroque artists really captured some emotion. Like the people look enough like real people that I feel like connection when I see like a Baroque portrait. So stuff like that. And then the Dutch masters are fun just because they're non-metallic metals, like they're little teapots that are perfectly painted to look like, you know, shiny chrome. They get really technically good, you know. So every movement of art has its own kind of foibles, and like it's cool if that style of art just doesn't really appeal to you. It's all good. And in that case, like if somebody drags you to a modern art museum and you're just lost, just kind of say, yeah, this isn't really my thing, but I'm going to give it a chance. And, you know, be straightforward about it and say, so, you know, you can always turn it back on the person you went with and say, okay, so do you like this stuff? And if you do like it, what do you like about it? Like get your person to talk to you if you're there with someone. Get somebody to talk to you about what they see in it, right? Because that can be instructive, even if you don't agree. That can still be a window into kind of a different world, a different way of looking at things. You know, that kind of thing. That kind of thing. Because, yeah, I also have I just don't, modern art often does not resonate with me. My favorite movements, like, are much more representative, like the Pre-Raphaelites. Baroque, Pre-Raphaelite, there's lots of like movements that I enjoy, like just kind of like the Cubism, where I enjoy its energy, but I don't necessarily I wouldn't necessarily have one on a wall. I love landscapes, the Hudson River School. David has gotten me into that. He loves the Hudson River School artists. Yeah, and then I mean we like some odd outliers like Dali. Some surrealist stuff is pretty cool. Not all of it. Like the vast majority of surrealism just leaves me cold, but there are a couple of pieces that are just really creepy and cool that I really like. Yeah. You can almost always find something. All right, I'm going to mix up a bit of ash and blue here, and we'll do one present. Let's see, where are we going to see it? I'll probably do a present with blue on it on either side, and then the one in the back will be red and gold. So let's get this going. But yeah, art criticism is like people get very, very kind of up in themselves about it, which is when I call it art BS. You don't need to be able to like use the lingo to enjoy a piece of art. I tend to like work though that has like a certain like energy to it, like a mood. I really like mood pieces. So if you show me like a landscape, even if it's a really, really simple, like almost abstract landscape, but it's got a mood to it in the way it's using lighting, I'll enjoy that, right? I like paintings with emotion in them. Like, and I like intricate use of detail. Wait, I think I have an example. I wonder if I do. Just for a quick example. Hold on. Don't remember the last time. Well, and then there's stuff like, you know, there's stuff like Chihuly, who are you really just looking at the shape and the color, right? I mean, he's technically modern. He's a modern artist working in glass. But his stuff's just really cool because it's so huge, right? But when I go to an art museum, I take pictures of stuff that reminds me, oh, there's a cool. But like, I'll even save stuff. This was a neat painting from when we went to Puerto Vallarta. And I saved it because I loved kind of just the monochrome palette and the weird distorted shapes and the candles. It's very ghostly, right? And I really love like all the glasswork, like all through here. It's like a table that's empty is surrounded by ghosts. And I really it had a mood to it, right? So I really liked it, so I saved it. But that's kind of an example of like, I'll save a piece often if it gives me ideas for colors. I'll save a piece if I just really like the ambience in it. So that's what when I go to a museum that's of a genre that I'm not into, that's what I try to look for, is pieces that appeal to me on a level that has nothing to do with the art style. There was a lot of kind of surrealist stuff like that in Puerto Vallarta because there's a very strong tradition of Mexican surrealism out there. In fact, even though it started in France, surrealism, I would say, is much more alive and well in Mexico. They really jumped on it. Like, we went to, while David's parents were here, we went down into the city and we went to the Museum of Modern Art, San Francisco. And again, I was like, there were a lot of things that I wasn't into. We went to the Diego Rivera exhibit, and he is Frida Kahlo's husband. He was very political. So, like, the only thing, like, there were his studies, though, like his like sketches for his figures were really beautiful. So even if I didn't like the look of the very political end piece, I could appreciate the artistry in his sketches, because he honestly had art chops. He's seriously good artist, but I just didn't agree. I didn't like what his political stuff was. It was just a little bit too heavy-handed. But yeah, so I was able to identify that I did enjoy his sketches, and then I could, talk about those and really enjoy those. And I did enjoy the Frida. He had like 3 pieces from Frida, and one of her portraits I really liked. I mean, it's those two, Frida Kahlo and her husband. Those two are like kind of like, it's almost like art in a bottle there. You've got Diego Rivera, who was very famous in his day and who did huge installment pieces and, was paid well. And doing huge political stuff, really heavy political stuff, right, for a lot of it. And then you've got Frida, his wife, who is kind of like sidelined during her time as an artist. It's just called Diego Rivera's wife most of the time. But now is much more well known, and her work is lighthearted and appealing. So you've really got in that marriage, you've got kind of like these two views of art, right? You've got the people who are trying to make a difference, who are using it to express, something important, quote unquote, about society, or about how they feel about society, or about, politics or the human condition or whatever. And then you've got the people who are just enjoying doing art and whose work may be lighter and more meant to just enjoy, right? And the thing is, there's no right or wrong there with either of those, right? There's nothing righteous about trying to make a difference with your art, and there's nothing righteous about painting for enjoyment, for making something that people will enjoy, right? So I just find it very interesting, you know, and which of them is more famous and more enjoyed, it has changed over time, right? And art historians still like point to Diego Rivera as more important than Frida. But the popular vote is definitely in Frida's camp. So and we see that in writing, we see it in art, we see it in all sorts of creative endeavors, right? You even see it in architecture. Like Frank Lloyd Wright. The popular mind loves Frank Lloyd Wright. But many architects, my brother among them, really don't like him because he didn't build like to last. Like he didn't like build. He built to more with an eye toward art and interesting ideas, and less with an eye toward, you know, is this sustainable? Am I using good building practices? Yada yada. So it's even in architecture you can see the split. Now I'm highlighting this with pure white so I can bring it up very ghostly, very wintry. It's one of the things that this color is good at, ash and blue. When you add white to it, you really can bring it up to be very very winter, very cold, very Christmas. Now I'm going to put a red ribbon around this one, I think. And I'm going to start with a darker red for that. Let's use deep red. I haven't used deep red for a while. That's one of the originals. Yeah, right, Valandar, exactly, right? And yet many architects just really are like, grr, that guy. But because he was a visionary, and because his work excited the imagination of people, even if Falling Water can't be kept alive, it's still a famous house that almost everybody knows about, you know? And so it's like, and that's the same with, any art, any creative endeavor, right? Like nobody can call Twilight great literature, but people enjoy it and love it, and it appealed to zillions of people. So, you know, you can't say, you know, you diss it all you like. I think one of my favorite writers actually said it kind of like, she's like, don't you say a word about Stephanie Meyer, because, you know, I would love to be exactly the degree of bad that she is and rolling in those hundreds. And she's not, like, it's just taste. It's just, you know, some things will appeal, some things won't, and that's the nature of creativity, no matter where you are. Yeah, most, but we can generalize. It's okay, Valandar. I'll let you generalize there. But yeah, so modern art isn't for everybody. You know, some of the art that I like, you guys probably are left cold by, you know, and vice versa. Some of the stuff you love, I'm probably like, eh. And that's cool. It's all good. I think a lot of times people hate to disagree in this culture, and everybody wants to agree. And I'm like, you can agree to, like, assert your individuality. Like, but I've always been that way. I was always a nonconformist in school, so I don't have any fear of being different. Not after this many years. I'm going to use Fire Red as a bright red to just highlight this deep red. Blood Red's also, it's the next color in the triad. It's a perfectly reasonable choice. But yeah, so I mean, bottom line, art and creative endeavors are there for other people to enjoy, to reach out to your fellow human. And if you don't feel reached out to, then it's not your fault. And when in doubt, ask questions. Like, if I got dragged to a weird exhibition by a friend who knew, like, more about the artist than me, and it was, like, of modern art or a type where I was normally not even, like, really into, I would just ask my friend questions. I'd be like, okay, so what appeals to you with this? What's the piece you think is the best and why, you know? Oh, yeah, pigment, not style. Except, you know what? Pigment is style, Valandar. Don't be deceived. Don't be deceived. If you choose to paint with matte paint versus painting with a semi-gloss paint, you bet that's part of your style. You absolutely bet it is. It is about any element of art, any physical element of art is still about style. Like, I used to study style in miniature painters. Like, trying to determine what made each person different makes me super happy. I still do it. I still love to kind of analyze a painter's style, look at what they're doing, and kind of break it down in my head, because I'm a weirdo and I enjoy that stuff. But the choice of color and the exact medium absolutely dictates the result. And so you can't separate it from style. Don't ever think style is just brushwork or where you put your highlights. It's also your choice of medium and color selection. So I feel like that is part and parcel of style. So I start with a darker red here, and then I'm going to start highlighting that. Now, if I want to bring this up fast, I'd put some white underneath it. So if I want a really hard highlight, because I'm working with a very small area, I would actually mix some white into my red, do a little bit of pink, like here toward the outside edge, and then go over that again with that fire red, which is much brighter. And I would get much brighter red very quickly. Yeah, which is kind of like ridiculous, Valandar. It's the blackest black. I don't, and it's, yeah, and it's kind of dumb, in my opinion. It's only my opinion. I've talked more about, so matte paint and miniature painting is a very niche product, and a dead matte deforms color, which is why Master Series is not a dead matte, and why I won't use a dead matte paint. It also shows every brush stroke that you do. So if you're painting in a style like that where you want to show brush strokes, great. But if you're not, it has limited utility. I feel like those people are more about publicity than the art, which is also an art thing. Like, there have been artists since the dawn of time who are less about their actual art and more about making a splash. And I feel like the Vanta Black, you know, Black 2.0 thing is like that. I feel like these people are making a mountain of a molehill because it attracts people to their brand. But that's just me, because I would never use their product, right? So I'm not their target audience. I feel like, I don't know. I would have to, maybe if I got out to Monte Sansevino, or if I go to Golden Demon. Golden Demon isn't the best place to talk about style, though, since it's only GW style. But it would be, if I went out to, maybe if I go to, maybe Adepticon in general, I could get a discussion started over style and what people feel is like the styles. Let's see if I can get some style wars going on, because I don't know what the latest, it used to be like game style versus like realistic lighting and all that stuff, and now I don't know what it is. Maybe you're right, Valandar, and it's all about the actual product. Certainly everybody has a favorite line of paint, but most painters that I know of use a mix. Like anybody who's good, because you understand that every line has different things to offer, and so you use what will give you the best result for your work. I used to call that being a kind of a paint mercenary, like freelancers were always paint mercenaries. So I never begrudged anybody when they didn't like Reaper. Like, I'm all like, it just doesn't work with your style. It's cool. There we go. So we'll just keep that edge down there. So we've got one little present under the tree. And this one over here, I think I'll do the ribbon in the blue or white. Yeah, everybody likes to stir the pot. It gets them attention. If those guys hadn't started fighting over the blackest black, most mini painters would never have even heard of it. Right? But because it became a big thing, that's why people know about it. Agent Marvel, the one that I like the best so far is actually the tube paint, the Scale Color Artist. Luca agrees with me, I believe, that Scale Color Artist and Reaper work really well together because they are very similar in finish. But they also have very different strengths and weaknesses. So that's the nice thing, is they mix really well. I regularly do mixes now of Scale Color Artist and MSP. Like if I want to work with my tube paint and I want to use some of those pigments. I did a Patreon thing about working with Scale Color. I'm actually about to start for January. I'll be doing a review of the Chimera colors and how to work with them. January is going to be all about like color mixing, guys. Yeah, my Patreon. Thank you, Quindy, for the splash there. That my Patreon is on there. It's patreon.com/paintingbig. And yeah, I like. I'm going to work with Chimera and see how it mixes with MSP and see like how it works by itself and what I like, what I don't like. You know, how to get the most out of it. But yeah, I really like the Scale Color Artist stuff. Agent Marvel. I like it because there are some pigments that I didn't have access to when I was working with Reaper, like dioxazine purples. So and the fact that it's quite thick-bodied and MSP is more thin-bodied, you can get a really nice kind of like blend of those two elements. So we just do this little bow. The color I like the most, absolutely, without question, is Burnt Umber. This is a beautiful, beautiful color. It is almost like, it looks almost black where it's thick, but then you can see when you thin it, it makes this beautiful transparent warm brown, which is hard to get. Very, very hard to get, and it's why this is such an amazing color. But I use it for shading a lot. I love it. I'm in love with it. I need a new tube. I keep telling myself I need to order a new tube. But yeah, if Master Series disappeared into the void tomorrow and I had to choose a line, I'd go with Scale Color Artist. Although I would still like order 60 million bottles of Reaper Pure White to use with it. I don't use its white or its black. I feel like the Reaper products are superior. And I like, I mix the two together because I like adhesion. So the thing is, Agent Marvel, if you're going to mess around with other paint lines, spend some time figuring out why they're different. Right, exactly, Richard Bennett. Exactly. Yeah, I gotta ask what your goal is, and then you gotta learn what the lines are good at, right? For instance, I really like the colors and the coverage in the artist color line, but when I thin it to the point where I like to work with paint, the adhesion is not great. So I add Master Series paint into there, and it helps with adhesion. And the other thing is, it's not meant, because it is higher coverage, it's not meant to blend as well when it's thinned, but Master Series is. And so I add Master Series in, and I can blend with it better. So you got to understand, like, you got to mess around. When you get a new paint line, mess around with it. Don't mess around with it mixed with your paint your other paint right away. So if you're used to Master Series and you get Chimera, spend time just working with Chimera. So that's what I'm going to be doing this coming month to write my review, is I'm going to paint a thing using Chimera, just Chimera. And I'm going to see its pluses and its minuses and how it's different from the paint line I'm used to. And then I can set that out for you guys. Then, if I like aspects of it, I'll start mixing it into MSP and see how they play together, right? Oh yeah, if you are used to canvas, then you should. Scale Color Artist is nice. It has a nice texture. I like it. Highly recommend. Highly recommend. But if you're on my Patreon, you should read the PDF about it. I think I did it for $5. It's $5 or $10. Can't remember. I try to keep those kind of things in the $5 tiers because those are the Color Workshop tiers. But if you're on there, you go take a look. I did it earlier this year. Shouldn't have to go too far back. But yeah, so I lay out in there exactly like my pros and cons of it and what it's like to work with. So alrighty, so now we have a nice little ribbon, nice little blue ribbon. Since I have my red out, and since I don't, my closest red thing is this ornament here, so I can go with red down here. But yeah, when they first did that Kickstarter, everybody laughed at them, and then, you know, the Kickstarter grossed over over $500,000, and they were like, oh, maybe we won't laugh anymore. I love the tube paint. I really love it also. The nice thing is, though it's more expensive per tube, obviously you get a lot of paint in the tube, Agent Marvel, but because you're thinning it, it goes a long way. So like it'll take you a long time to go through a tube because you're thinning it. And I mean, if I want to just use a tiny bit, I will just put it a little bit on my brush and transfer it to my palette. But more often I'm just using just like a blob, a very small blob out of the aperture. All right, so you've got that dark red. But yeah, I like to analyze different lines, and I have an analytical brain, and it likes to work on that sort of thing. So do the Chimera next. I did a thing on different lines, silver metallics recently, that was actually very interesting to do, to analyze what kind of flake the different lines were using and the shininess level of it, you know, kind of doing comparative work there. We are almost to the end of the stream. Then I have to figure out what I'm going to do today. I work at so many different things that often when I have a day off or a free day, I kind of like freeze it like a deer in headlights and kind of go, oh, what do I do? Hey Jay, thanks for the resub. 29 months, dang. Why do you hate working with yellow? If you tell me why, then I might be able to help you out, Richard. Yellows are going to be a no coverage paint. So if you're looking for a yellow with coverage, it's actually the chemistry. Because yellows the yellow pigments, to reach their key color point, they have to be ground so fine. And this is an actual like chemistry thing. Like to get that yellow, you must grind it that fine. That's something that people don't understand about pigment grind, is like pigments aren't ground to the point they are because that's as fine as you can grind them, or you can't leave them like at a lesser like ground level to get better coverage, because the grind is part of what brings the color out. David plays Frisbee with her, but we're not playing Frisbee much these days, Pendrake, because our backyard is a mud pit. That'll have to wait till the grass regrows a bit. Richard, the key for that is actually to do one coat of white under the thing you want yellow, and then just put yellow over the top. It'll cover in 2 coats. Boom, done. Yeah, it's an extra step, but it's better than doing those dozen coats. So you could use this, or some people do pink, because then when you put the yellow over the top, you get orange in the shadows from the pink. So you could do that as well. I tend to just use the white, and then I tend to use a darker yellow first and then highlight with a lighter yellow. I actually started again, Agent Marvel. Just the other night, I actually started knitting again. It was the first time I could do it without Kiki eating my yarn. Yeah, so that's the key really there, Richard, is use a color that's has a lot of white in it, since white covers the best. It's the highest pigment grind, it's the biggest particle size. So it has great coverage, and since it's a neutral, you can put the yellow right over the top. That's like the way to get yellow in 2 coats, really. 3 coats if you count putting a darker yellow down first and then popping a highlight on it. I would not do a wash on yellow because it darkens it too much. I would start with a darker yellow and then just highlight it. Blonde hair, the key is not using yellow, Lisana. No, yeah, you try pink. It'll essentially give you an orange, and then if you highlight again with yellow, you leave the orange in the shadows. Yep. Yeah, yellow over white is useful when you want it to be bright. Like I did these ornaments in white first, and then I did the yellows down, and it gave me a brighter result. Yeah, that's why we do blonde hair triads. So where's my blonde hair? Hold on. Blonde hair, where are you? I know you're back here somewhere. There we go. So Reaper Master Series does a color called blonde hair. You will notice that it is very different from yellow. If you look at blondes, actually people who are blonde, you'll see their hair isn't like candy yellow. It's a more of a golden color, kind of like a golden retriever. If you wanted to, you could do a mix of these two and get somewhere in between. But the brighter, more yellow you go, the more unnatural it looks. Yeah, but yeah, one thing you can do also is to use blonde hair. It's got a shadow and a highlight in this triad too, Lisanna. So you've got a shadow, and I usually start with the shadow, and then I highlight with blonde hair, and then I highlight with blonde hair triad, blonde hair highlight. But the thing that almost all of us do when we use this triad is we'll actually use a yellow, and we'll do a glaze over it after we're done, just to give a little hint, just a little more hint of a yellow. Because on a miniature, on a little 28, having that little bit more hint of yellow can be more effective. I think I did. I think I have one, Turgeon. I'm almost certain I did. I thought I did one with Julie's bust, the sorceress lady with the dragon. Thought I did blonde hair with her and transparent cloth. But yeah, so like Rhonda, she'll use more of an orangey. Most painters will use more of an orangey yellow to glaze. So for example, let me find my appropriate colors. They will use something like lantern instead of a brighter yellow. They'll use a more orangey yellow. I had my saffron sunset around here somewhere. I don't know where it went. But that's a color that they often use. But yeah. So just so you know, we also have a red hair triad. Because I know, I did it so that, because I know how much people struggle. Yep, painting blonde hair. There you go, Turgeon. A few people use GW paint who don't like the GW white. Interesting. Yeah, well, I mean, I prefer, I really feel like Master Series, I mean, I'm biased, right? I made the line, but I feel like MSP Pure White is the best white in the business, period, hands down. No argument. I don't use anything else. Like, even when I do use other paint lines for their various talents, I never use anything other than Pure White. In cartoons, correct. So if you're doing a very anime or cartoony model, then you could use white, or sorry, you could use yellow. But in regular miniatures, if you're looking for, if you're wondering why your blonde hair isn't working, it could be because you're going to yellow with it. Make sure to stretch before patting yourself on the back. I'm just, you know, I can lay out why I like the Reaper Pure White, and it honestly wouldn't appeal like to everybody, because people who want like just high coverage right out the gate would not like the Reaper Pure White. And it has coverage, but there are whites that have like straight, like flat coverage, like one coat, no questions asked. MSP is brilliant because you can thin it without it falling to pieces. And it's still, you can keep it strong, or you can thin it to that point where you need it for layering. That's what we always needed back in the day. That's why I did this with our white, is because we had a lot of whites that would cover, but we didn't have any white that could be thinned down without separating. So that's what I set out to do with MSP white. That's why I love it. Hey, I have no illusions. Like in my opinion, I know you're getting cursed, but this is a soapbox for me. We aren't allowed to like pat ourselves on the back. Everybody thinks you're stuck up if you congratulate yourself, right? I think that we need to congratulate ourselves on the good things we do more often. I'm very proud of Master Series paint, and I will happily, pat myself on the back for it. Enough people really like it that I feel like I can do that. And it's not because I'm stuck up. It's because I'm honestly proud of a ton of work and effort that I put into that paint line over 17 years. And if I can't, if I'm not allowed to like pat myself on the back a bit and feel good about it, then, you know, the world is a wrong, very, very silly place. That's all I'm saying. We're always called on to be humble, and yet we aren't really like told that we're awesome enough, in my opinion. Oh, yuck. Yeah, Richard, that sounds terrible. Yeah, pure white's really, really smooth. Well, and like I have this white thinned. There's you know, half as much water as paint, and I get no separation with this white, and I can do tiny thin lines with it and hit tiny little details with it. So that's why I love MSP Pure White. It lets me do that. But yeah, here I'm putting some white down on the corners of the box here so I can paint this bright red over the top and get defined corners. And then back here on this box, I think I'm going to do a red ribbon and gold package, so at least I can do the red ribbon. I just picked up some Citadel metallics. It was the one metallic that I didn't own, so I didn't analyze it with the rest of them in the PDF I did, so I decided I would pick up some of their metallics and play with them. Since I was kind of in a metallic groove, kind of figuring out like which metallics I liked the best. And the answer is, of course, just like any paint, metallics from different companies have different abilities, like different strengths and weaknesses, and so you figure them out and then you use the one that's most appropriate. Yeah, try it, Richard. I mean, like I said, the reason I like, maybe you won't like it, maybe you will, but give it a try. It is more fluidy, so if you're trying to get little details with it, it comes off the brush a little easier than the thick paints. And if you thin it just a little bit, it still has a fair amount of strength. And if you need to thin it a lot, you can. Usually I go with a 2-to-1 if I need to do some really tiny details. What I like to do is to put down the white and then paint over the top, so underpainting. So on this red bow, I'll do a little tiny bit of the white to bring out the shape. Just to bring out the shape of those ribbons, and then I'll go and put the red, this fire red over the top, which is a much brighter red. But it'll make those ribbons, the shape of those ribbons, still show up a little better than they did. So I can still see those little ribbon bits. So I do a lot of underpainting with my work, when I'm working on models. When I was doing this model, there's a lot of underpainting to get the white to come up. There's underpainting on the hair and the face. And on the skin and the stockings and everything like that. There's a lot of white painting to get things to stand out, and then putting color over the top against a dark background. But yeah, give Pure White a try. I mean, it's a bit different than the others, but yeah, every paint line has strengths and weaknesses, so you can look at your goals and you assess what you want. Usually I don't want coverage out of white, which is a weird thing. I want some coverage, obviously, because I do use it for underpainting, but I'm thinning it so that I'm not getting perfect coverage out of it. I just like it because I can thin it and still get enough coverage to do my underpainting. But I'm never looking for one coat coverage from it. So that white underneath lets that red be more bright. Yeah, you should never thin it over. Ever, ever, ever. You should never thin Pure White more than 2.5 to 1 water to paint. So 2 drops of paint, 5 drops of water. That's the most you should ever thin Pure White, and that is only if you want to do really transparent layering with it. Like if you're building it up in a smooth blend. Anything else, you should not be thinning it that much. Like the real sweet spot with it, if you're using it to pop little highlights, is really 2-to-1 paint to water. Maybe 1-to-1 if you want really, really like to blend with it a bit. Yeah, but it is really, I mean, Richard's like 100%. It's what you want. It's what you're looking for. And that's why, you know, there's so many paint lines out there, because so many people paint with different styles and they need different things from their paints. And so all these different lines appeal to different people. Either it's got a color that you've always wanted, or it's got the consistency you want, you know, or it's got the coverage you want, you know. And that depends on what techniques you use, and that's a part of your style. So that's, you know, like I said, I never like Marika, when she was still painting regularly, Marika like used my paint, and she didn't like it for her main paint. You know, she was one of my very good friends at the time, and so it was like she felt bad telling me that, you know, she didn't use MSP for her like her main paint, and I'm like, it's fine, you know, your style. Her style was to wet blend. She wanted absolute coverage. She didn't want to underpaint. She just wanted to take her colors and mush them together to make a base color so she'd get the shadow, midtone, highlight. And MSP was too thin for her, and I got it. But she also liked MSP's adhesion, so after she did her stuff, she would often glaze with MSP to get the paint to stick to the model better. So she still used it. It's just like it was a very specific use for her. So it's just, everybody's got a different jam, folks. And as you paint and as you try different people's approaches, if you like that, if you are into it, you will get yourself a style and a preference and a paint line you prefer and colors you prefer, and it's all part of you, the miniature painter. So, yeah, it's not a bad thing. There's no right way to paint a mini. It's only the way that you enjoy. That's it. Alrighty, we're about ready. I did not get to the gold on the cat box, but I'm going to actually do a quick brownish base coat so that I know that's what I was planning. That way when I come back to this, I'll be like, oh yeah, I was going to do that box in gold. Yeah, but even that can be tricksy, because good and bad, right? There's good, bad in that. And probably the one thing I learned most from Paint Club when I was doing it for Reaper was that different people didn't want to necessarily hear, and they didn't need to hear about a particular technique that can make their mini better, quote unquote, because what they were aiming for was tabletop quality that was decent. So they just needed a couple of quick tips to make it look just a little better. So make sure before you ask for feedback, folks, that you define what you are trying to do. Because, yeah, otherwise the feedback you get may not be helpful. If you're trying to speed paint, then people telling you should like layer and glaze is not what you need to hear. And if you want to paint high-end for competition, then people telling you to put a wash on everything isn't what you need to hear. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, when you have to paint an army, it's a whole different thing. Or if you're like me, you set out to paint an army and then you take an eternity to do it. But even I have speed painting techniques. For me, I like underpainting. So if I have to speed paint, I like to underpaint. So do a black and white. I like sketch. Sketch with like heavy washes and glazes over it is like kind of where my happy army painting place is these days, if I want to go fast. Alrighty. So now I've got that in brown, and so I know when I come back to it, I will know that I want to make it gold. And we have pretty much almost completely finished Kitty. So next holiday season, we will create a base for these guys and finish that package. Yeah, 200. I remember I had a Tyranids army. My first real 40K army was Tyranids. I had 120 Gaunts, Richard, and I won't go back to that. I won't come back to that. No horde armies for me ever again. Yeah, it's true, random user. The modern and the models are so good, right? You don't want to rush them. They look awesome. A lot of people that I knew when I worked for Games Workshop, which was very brief, but out in Glen Burnie, Maryland, when they were headquarters out there, a lot of the people I knew out there, they enjoyed building more than they enjoyed painting. So they really lavished a lot of attention over their builds and their conversions. Yeah, Happy New Year, Turgeon. I will be on Saturday. I'm gonna stream tomorrow on my own channel, twitch.tv/paintingbig, around 3:30 p.m. USA Central Time. And I'll probably be working on my Anubis because I want to get him done so I can start a bust. But yes. So there you go, peeps. So we accomplished things. We accomplished things today. I hope you all have a fantastic New Year. I will be back Tuesday. I took Monday off so that I can have a day to kind of plan my year. I really like to spend some time doing that, especially with being a freelancer. It helps me to kind of structure things. So I hope you have a lovely day and a lovely New Year, and those of you who are partying, and I hope that your January 1st starts 2023 off to a great start. Yes. I like to one day a year, yeah. Well, I do it a bit more than that, but I like to get the year kind of mapped in the beginning. All right, guys, have a good one, and I will see some of you tomorrow. All right, bye.